r/AskReddit. Serious. People of Reddit that believe in the paranormal, ghosts, demons, angels, etc. What exactly happened to make you start believing? Serious replies only. When I was a kid I had an imaginary friend called Mr. Johnson. I would talk to and play with him all day, and my parents mostly ignored it because it seemed harmless. Well, one day while my mom was out watering the yard, a neighbor walked by and started a conversation. He said he was surprised that she moved in there because it was supposedly haunted, and that the previous tenant had died in the house. His name was Mr. Johnson. After that my parents got really uncomfortable when I talked to my friend and I eventually stopped interacting with him. I also have a very vivid memory of talking to something on a curtain rod in the same house. I can't remember what we were talking about, only that its voice was kind of raspy and weird. When my dad came in and asked what the heck I was doing, I remember the thing saying, "Say I'm God." So, I told my dad I was talking to God and thought the freaked out look he gave me was hilarious. Even though I had no real understanding of what God was or why that was such a strange thing to say. My aunt used to live in an old, pre-Civil War house. The upstairs gave off a really creepy vibe to it. It wasn't used, so no one had any reason to go up there. A lot of the time her and I would leave to run errands. We would come back and all the lights would be on upstairs in every room. Mind you, she lived alone. Well, one night we both walked up there to turn them off, and as we rounded the corner on the steps we saw an old man at the top, and then he vanished right in front of both of us. My aunt and I both hightailed out of there as fast as we could. I didn't stay the night with her again until she moved out of that place. I remember this happening when I was younger. My uncle's family started having this weird feeling around their house, especially in the dining room, so they decided to have a priest bless the house. Since we live nearby, we were invited. The priest was spraying holy water in each room section of the house. As he sprayed in the dining area, the glass dining table broke in half. Straight line through the middle, no shards whatsoever. My uncle said that after that, the weird feeling was gone. I lean more on science and logic these days, but this experience keeps me from completely dismissing the idea. Edit. I do remember the address and I originally posted it. I deleted it because of subrules. If a mod tells me I can, I'll put it back. Otherwise, IDK. I guess if I'm allowed to DM it to you, ask. Also, while I did relay this exactly as I experienced it, I know kids are weird and unreliable. As far as I know, I just lived in an old, nasty house with a bug infestation. Maybe the landlord was trying to scare us into moving out. Our rent was late more than once, haha. When I was 10, my family moved to an old house in a small town. The night we moved in, I saw a dark figure in the master bedroom mirror behind me. A man in a white-brimmed hat, but just a black silhouette. 2. Everyone in the house had vivid nightmares nearly every night the entire time we lived there. My younger brother couldn't sleep because of zombies in our room. 3. I had a bunk bed that was a twin on top and a double on the bottom. One night, dead asleep, I somehow flew so hard off the top bunk that I landed a good foot away from the bed without touching the bottom bunk, which jutted out over a foot from the top. 4. One morning, the kitchen floor was completely covered in maggots. 5. One morning, there was a mass of lizard corpses in the pantry, melted together in various stages of decay. There was no way it was there before. Someone would have noticed. It was smelly and in plain sight. Finally, the trigger for my mom to say, "Forget this crap, I'm out." 6. There was a large building behind our house that had been some type of big shed. We didn't use it because there was a giant beehive basically taking up an entire wall. I don't remember who saw it first, but there was a blurry, white apparition in the building's window. A woman in an older, traditional dress, the kind with a headscarf and apron. She was looking to the left. All of us saw her, 4 people, and just stared for several minutes. I've blocked out a lot of that time in my life, but I remember enough to know there was something wrong with that house. My childhood best friend had a Rottweiler, Tyler, who passed away a few years before we started hanging out. One night, I spent the night at his house and woke up in the middle of the night to a Rottweiler staring me in the face. I thought it was his new Rottweiler, Rowdy, he had, so I went to pet it and my hand just went right through it. I told him about it the next morning and they said it was normal for them to see or hear him still roaming around the house every once in a while. I've had a few paranormal interactions since, but that was the one that solidified my beliefs. I haven't really had anything happen to me as an adult that has reconfirmed my beliefs, but my mum always used to tell me stories of stuff that would happen to her when I was a baby and we were renting a specific house in the hills. She said unexplained things always used to happen to her after I was born. Such as taps turning on in the kitchen by themselves when she was sitting in the lunch room and could see the kitchen sink from where she was. Pictures would fall from the walls, but when she would look at the nail it was sticking out straight and not bent, therefore making the picture fall. The rocking chair in the lounge would often rock as though someone was in it. And the creepiest of all, if you ask me, she would hear footsteps go up the stairs and into the room above, my room, and hear something playing with all my toys. I was a tiny baby, so it wasn't me. Safe to say mum never left me in a room on my own. Probably too late now for anyone to see this, but it's something that's always made me think. When my sister was a baby, she was always crying and would not sleep through the night unless she was in bed with my mom. My stepfather worked nights at a hospital, so he was not there when this occurred. Mom told me she woke up because she felt a hard, bony finger tapping on her shoulder. She woke with a start to this finger and realized in the night she had rolled on top of my sister and was suffocating her. If she had not woke up, my sister would have probably died. My mom turned around in a panic, thinking my stepdad had came home early and had poked her to wake her up, but he was not there, and wasn't there till the next morning. She swears to this day that an angel tapped her to wake her up to save my sister. My childhood home is haunted. Where my house is, there used to be another house. It burned down, and the father of the family who lived there died in the basement during the fire. The family sold the land, and the house was cleared away and a new house built over the old basement. My grandmother, who lives in the same town, knows the family. Anyways, my parents bought the new house when I was a toddler and we've lived there for around 20 years. The ghost of the guy who died in the fire, named Charlie, lives in our house, and it's pretty obvious. My mom says that once, when she and my dad were arguing, she took to the bedroom to cool off. She said, "Charlie, I wish you could knock some sense into him." Not 5 minutes later, my dad starts swearing from the living room. The shelves above his chair had fallen and knocked him in the head. They've never fallen before or since. Any animal we have, a couple dogs when I was a kid, my cat now, will stare down the hallway for long stretches of time, then go bananas chasing something from the living room at one end to the bedrooms at the other, like they are playing with someone. I personally have heard footsteps, big, heavy footsteps, like someone wearing work boots, walk up and down the hallway, especially at night. It scared me as a kid, but now I just take it as Charlie checking on our safety. My grandmother, while visiting us one time, woke up in the guest bedroom to a shadow man standing in the doorway. She hid under the blanket for a few minutes, then decided it was safe. When she came out of the blanket, the shadow man was at her bedside, leaning over her. She hid under the blanket again until she fell asleep. The most concrete evidence for me was the time Charlie scared something off. My bedroom was always the coldest room in the house, and often I felt uncomfortable in there, like I was sitting next to someone who disliked me. One day, I went to grab clothes for a shower, and walked right into a wall of evil halfway down the hall. I can't describe it fully, nothing looked different. I just felt like I had physically crossed a barrier into a force field of hatred. I knew without a doubt in my body that I was in danger, and without thinking, I hauled it to the opposite end of the house. To the kitchen. I stood at the stove, shaking. I was about 14, afraid to look down the hallway in case I saw whatever was down there, but afraid that if I didn't look, it would sneak up on me. I eventually convinced myself that I was being a baby, and started slowly through the dining room and towards the hall, afraid the entire time. All at once, I felt a strong breeze blow by my left side, going down the hall towards my room, like how it feels when someone runs by you and barely avoids running into you. And I thought for a second that I heard a man's voice. I continued down the hall, and I couldn't feel the evil anymore. I went into my room, and it felt lighter and more comfortable than it ever had in my life. I thanked Charlie, and from then on, I've never felt that uncomfortable feeling in my room. I think he protects it now. But yeah, growing up in a haunted house is pretty convincing in my opinion. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel for more edit videos like this. Don't forget to smash that like button and stay crispy, guys.